Hi skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com. Welcome to episode 12 of Top 5 Fridays, our weekly news, article, and video. First of all, happy 4th of July weekend. Today's July 3rd, so I hope everyone is able to celebrate Independence Day weekend in a safe and healthy and fun fashion. I know, locally here in Stowe, we're not going to have a parade or anything like that. We do still have a fireworks display. I imagine the same is true for most of the country. So hopefully people can get creative and have some fun. So yeah, before we get into anything, I just hope that everybody has a great 4th of July weekend. Looking forward to it myself. We've got really nice weather here in Vermont right now. Perfect for the 4th. So let's get right into the news. First up, we have some updates from FIS and World Cup skiing, specifically the World Championships for 2021 in Italy. Essentially, a request was made, this was a while back now, a request was made that they postpone the 2021 World Championships, which are scheduled for Italy. That was rejected by FIS yesterday. And they did so citing what they called a month of efforts to come to a solution, which was all coming from what they put in quotes as the broader FIS family. So not like a tremendous amount of detailed information about how those decisions were made or what exactly those solutions are. But for now, the 2021 World Championships in Italy are still on. And I think this is going to be obviously something that we're going to have to follow, not just for this event, but for most events or all events next season. It's still a variable. No one really knows what's going to happen still. I know Burton basically hosts the U.S. Open for snowboarding, and they do that in Vail, and that's already been canceled. So it's kind of interesting to see. Oh, I think we got some F-35s flying over right now. That's cool. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see. It's very, very July 4th, right? Very patriotic. You guys can't hear it because I'm on this microphone, but we got a big F-35 base nearby, and they're right overhead right now. So yeah, going to be really interesting to see what events get canceled, how early they get canceled. I've heard a lot of opinions of people saying they thought it was kind of early to cancel the U.S. Open, but then there's all sorts of reasons why they did so. It takes months and months and months of planning, and they just ultimately decided it wasn't worth it. So going to be really interesting to follow that, but I suppose it's good news that the World Champs are still on. Now, along the same lines, or similarly, another FIS update and another Italy-based update, 3 members from the Italian women's national team did test positive for COVID-19 recently. So these are the variables that we're going to have to watch and pay attention to and see how they affect what happens this upcoming season. Essentially, it was 1 athlete, 2 coaches. The athlete and one of the coaches are asymptomatic. One of the other coaches was hospitalized with a high fever. So well wishes to them. I hope everyone in that situation recovers well. Hopefully they can do a lot of contact tracing and minimize the impact on the broader team. As a kind of precaution, they only kept part of the team still training, and they essentially sent all the World Cup level athletes home for now. So that'll be another thing that we're going to have to watch and see how it develops. And now on to, what has become my favorite topic recently. There is a new proposed gondola plan for that Cottonwood Canyon traffic problem. Snowbrains.com reported on this, and actually let me go back real quick because a lot of people were reporting on the FIS news. We got 2 articles from ESPN, Snowbrains, and skiracing.com as usual. They provide great information. So thanks to all those news outlets. So yeah, new gondola plan for Cottonwood Canyon. If you recall, 2 weeks ago we talked about this, and we talked about the three options that are on the table. So kind of two different bus systems with a couple other things going on, like whether they're adding another lane or not, and then also a gondola. Now, there were some kind of issues with that gondola. I think the biggest of them being that the parking was quite a ways away from where you would actually get on the gondola. This new proposal is from a private landowner, and he's basically proposed a new gondola station and a new parking area on a 37.5 acre site that's less than a mile from the mouth of Cottonwood Canyon. So the idea is to increase efficiency, make it quicker and easier for everybody to access the mountains. More efficient, higher capacity. They brought in Doppelmayr, which quoted them at 4,000 people per hour. And if you remember, that initial gondola proposal was just over 1,000 people per hour. So that's a huge increase. And this would also cut ride times down. Now it would be less than half an hour to Snowbird, and obviously with a much quicker ride from parking to the gondola itself. There would essentially be a parking garage, big parking garage, and then just, right down the strip there would be the actual gondola base station. It sounds like the biggest question mark for this is that it would have to, one is that those three original options were already submitted to the Department of Transportation, so they're already considering specifically those three options, so they might not even be able to get this fourth one in there to be considered. And then the other thing is they would have to add one more angle station, so not a loading or unloading station, but basically, with such a long gondola, they have to navigate some pretty crazy terrain, and there's protected wilderness in there, so they would have to reroute the gondola if they chose this new base location. Essentially, I think it would adding one more would bring it to a total of 2 turning stations. So yeah, I'm really excited to follow this and see what happens. We have similar traffic issues in Stowe sometimes, not nearly as bad, but it's a somewhat similar situation, and I've always thought that a gondola would be really cool. Third, we have Aspen Snowmass joining what's essentially a boycott on Facebook advertising. And this is really interesting to me. So there's a growing number of relatively big players in the outdoor industry that have joined a boycott of advertising on Facebook, so not spending any advertising dollars for their brands on Facebook through the month of July. Really interesting. Basically, it's in protest of Facebook, the platform itself, their reluctance to remove hate speech, which I think is a common topic right now. Obviously, it's a pretty heavy topic. I think if this helps improve anything about what Facebook does, then it's not a bad thing by any means. I think it's really interesting, and I'm personally interested in following this. There was a response from Facebook, which I thought was very well worded, and I thought was a proper response. We deeply respect any brand's decision and remain focused on the important work of removing hate speech and providing critical voting information. Our conversations with marketers and civil rights organizations are about how, together, we can be a force for good. I think it's important to emphasize that Facebook needs to be a force for good for everybody. Everybody in the world, everybody in our country needs to be a fair, honest place to share information. So pretty interesting. Snowbrains.com has this article, so head on over and check that out if you want to learn more about it. This last one is really cool too. Vail Resorts is really celebrating, but this whole story is really cool. If you're not familiar with Vail Resorts as a brand and their message, a big part of what their goal is tied up in what they call epic promise. So having worked for Vail, this is something that I'm personally familiar with and is probably my favorite thing about what the company does is they are truly and honestly committed to sustainable energy and environmentally friendly practices, whether it's, it's all sorts of stuff. Epic Promise actually is a huge umbrella that underneath that umbrella are a lot of different, like, really specific stuff. Like, for waste management is a big part of it. So we saw it at Stowe this season. Stowe is a recent acquisition for Vail, and we had drastically different trash receptacles. They clearly spent a ton of money, more on staffing than anything else, to ensure that compost was going in the compost bin, trash was going in the trash bin, recyclables were going in the recycling bin, all of that. I mean, they had like a team of people that was their goal, that was their job. So really cool. And back to this specific article, Vail has committed to buying 100,000 hours, megawatt hours of wind energy from the 82 turbine Plum Creek Wind Project. Now, that amount of energy is going to power 90% of the company's current electricity use across all 34 of their North American resorts. So it's all this specifically is their commitment to zero, which under the Epic Promise umbrella, commitment to zero is 100% renewable energy by 2030. Now, this is actually really interesting because they started talking about this a couple of years ago now, and when they did, this purchase agreement would have powered 100% of all of their resorts, but since then they've bought like 17 resorts. So now it's 90%, but still a huge step towards that 100%, which is really cool. So go Vail. I really think it's great when a company as big as them is this committed to something really good. So I think major kudos to Vail on that. And that's it for news topics. Lastly, we have our edits of the week. First one is called Love, a Big Mountain Ski film. This was really interesting. I really enjoyed watching this. It's a little over 4 minutes long. Pretty much all the skiers, and I believe all the footage is out of Revelstoke. And yeah, just really good. Good mix of like big mountain skiing. There's a little backcountry jump action in there too. We also have a kind of early trailer, or more of a teaser, for the new Matchstick Films movie, which is called Huck Yeah. Great name. A longer trailer will be released this month, so the month of July. They didn't really mention when. I would imagine it'll be a few weeks from now since this just came out. But it's about a minute long. Pretty classic MSP stuff. MSP has a pretty big film budget. They use really good equipment, and they have some of the world's best skiers. So a lot of really epic cinematography, some really cool slow-mo shots. And then last edit of the week is the official The Warren Miller Story trailer, which I think is going to be really good. Warren Miller's an icon in the industry. He's done the mark that he's left on skiing, and all the positives that has come out of his work is just, it's pretty mind-blowing. So I personally am excited to watch this movie when it comes out. I know it'll be really good. Couple famous faces in this little trailer, like Johnny Mosley popped up for a second, and I'm sure there will be a lot of that. So good edits of the week this week, I think, and that's it. So yeah, hope everyone has a safe, fun, healthy, happy 4th of July weekend. We're getting closer and closer to ski test results being published. Look for those in about a month exactly. And yeah, with that, I will leave you guys for the holiday weekend, and we'll see you next week.